Hello?
Miss Lestico, guess what time it is?
What time?
It's time for math!
Yay!
Welcome to an exciting new unit of math. I'm so excited for this
I'm
unit.
so excited to get to learn something new other than word problems.
Oh, me too. I know we're going to come back to word problems later, but for now, we're going to focus on telling time to the hour.
Oh my goodness. But to start off with telling time, we have to back it up a little bit and we have to look at something that will help us tell time, which brings me to our target today. And it is, I can identify and explain attributes of a clock.
Ooh, I know attributes are kind of like characteristics or something that is involved in the clock, but that's still a little messy in my brain.
It is.
Miss Lestico, there's a brain pop. I bet that would help me.
Oh my goodness, I bet that will explain all about the attributes of a clock for us.
What you reading? You can't actually read a clock, Moby. Well, a clock doesn't tell you much of a story. It tells you the time. A clock doesn't actually talk. It just, well, what is a clock? I know that a clock is a tool that we use to measure time, just like we use tools to measure height. All clocks measure the same time, even if they look really different. This is the type of clock we have in our classroom, and I have my own clock in my bedroom. And there's a clock in our living room. Oh yeah, and Grandpop has a clock on his arm. A watch. I guess clocks can tell time in different ways. Well, Grandpop's watch is digital, and the time is written out in numbers. And Mr. Patchouli says the clock in our classroom is analog. You have to figure out the time by looking at the face. What is the face of a clock? The face of a clock is the part with the numbers on it. Like on this clock, the face is the white part. There are 12 numbers that go around the face of a clock. Just like there are 12 inches on a ruler, or 12 months in a year. The 12 is always on the top, and the 6 is always on the bottom. But the face and numbers don't tell time by themselves. What do the hands on the clock do? The hands are the part of the clock that point to the numbers. I know they aren't really hands. That's just what they're called. The little hand is called the hour hand because it shows the hour. And the big hand is called the minute hand because it shows the minutes. While the minute hand goes all the way around the clock, the hour hand moves from one number to the next. So the hour hand moves slower than the minute hand. And the hands always move in one direction. It's called clockwise. No, the hands never go backwards. That's called counterclockwise. But check it out, Moby. There are clocks everywhere. I guess people need clocks to know the time. But why is time so important? Every morning my alarm clock wakes me up for school. Come on, Moby, it's time to wake up. We don't want to be late. I know the bus comes at 8 o'clock, so we have to make sure we're at the bus stop before it comes. I guess time is important because we used to plan the day. Moby, it's not time for lunch yet. There are a lot of times to remember, like our school starts at 8:30. Oh, and we have music at 2 o'clock. And I know the most important time of all, free time.
My brain popped.
Oh my goodness. I understand so much more about the attributes of a clock now. And I
That's so
think we're
true.
ready to start filling in our own clock and looking at a clock that we have in the classroom.
Oh my goodness. You know what was interesting, Miss Lustico? They kept saying that a clock had a face. I have a face, and you have a face, and that's the part that I see. It's like this whole big circle. That is the same part on a clock.
Wow. So I have a face of a clock drawn right up here. So this is the part that we see with all of my numbers on my clock. So I'm going to go ahead and label this the face of my clock. So I know that this is what I see.
That's right. When I'm looking at it, I can see this whole thing is its face, just like my whole face.
But Miss Lime,
What are these things?
I'm noticing I'm missing some parts on my clock. What do I need to add?
I have like these things that like they move around and they point to stuff and Miss Lustico, I have two things that move around and can point to stuff. They're my hands. And the clock has two things that point. It must be their hands.
So why are there two hands? They look pretty different to me.
This one's really long and this one's really short. And wait, I remember Annie and Moby were talking about how it tells the hours and the minutes.
Oh.
So I have a minute hand and an hour hand.
Well, I'm thinking that since this is a short hand and it points directly to this big number right here, which I know are my hour numbers, this is probably the hour hand.
Yeah, that's right. So the shorter hand on the clock is the hour hand. No, I know an hour is a long time. The hour hand is not very long. So Miss Lustico has drawn an example of the hour hand. She drew an arrow and it stops exactly at the hour.
But Miss Lime, there's one more hand. I have two hands.
I have
clock
two
has
hands.
two
This is
hands.
the hour hand. Oh, this is the minute hand. It is longer than the hour hand. See, it's going through the hour and pointing at the minute.
Oh, so when I draw my minute hands, I draw them all the way through the hour, and then I put a little arrow on the end, so I know that this is the minute hand because it's really long.
That's right. So I can see the difference on her clock. That it is an hour hand, that's the shorter hand, and a minute hand, that's the longer hand. But Ms. Lustico, this is an analog clock. They're not always an analog clock, right? Oh, she's going to add that to our anchor chart. The analog clock has our face and an hour hand and a minute hand. But Annie and Moby also mentioned a digital clock.
Digital? I remember when they talked about digital, they said it was the numbers put together on a clock.
Oh my goodness, you know what? A digital clock is what I see a lot of times, like on our classroom TVs, maybe on my cell phone, on my wristwatch. Sometimes you can see an analog clock, but nowadays most people have the digital clock.
That's true. So I know my digital clocks have the hour at the beginning. So I'm going to label this my hour. And then it has these two dots that separate the hour from the minutes.
Yeah.
So I have to label this minute.
Otherwise, it would look like it's just one huge number. So the dots help us know the difference between the hour and the minutes. Well, Miss Lustico, you drew 1 o'clock at the front.
Oh,
You
I
drew
see
1
that.
o'clock on the analog clock. Could you show us 1 o'clock on a digital time?
Oh, so I know if my hour hand is pointing to the 1, that's what I'm going to put in my hours at the beginning. So I'm going to put a 1, and then I have my dot, and I know that the 12, I don't write a 12 for the minutes because this is the hour number, and my minute hand is pointing straight through the hours, and I know that my minutes for 12 should be a 0, 0.
Now, Miss Lustico, our target today is not telling time.
No.
Our target today is identifying the attributes of a clock. So is it okay if I don't know how to tell time and write time yet?
That is. All you need to be able able to do is identify where your hour hand is, where your minute hand is. Know that we have an analog clock with a face and a digital clock with our numbers written out.
Wow. It's your turn. On Seesaw, you have an activity where you're going to have to identify the attributes of a clock.
You're going to have to tell where the minute hand is, where the hour hand is, and show the difference between an analog and a digital clock.
Make sure you push the green check mark when you're done.
Good luck, first grade.